festive. Hi! So I did a thing recently, and I'm gonna tell you a story about it, because I haven't really just told a story on this channel in a long time. It's all been, oh, fund my web series, or here's a song, or oh, fund my web series, or here's some fandom relatable content, or fund my web series. But sometimes I do like things in life and they're interesting, and we're better to share them than this YouTube internet video blog. So I went to an audition last week. For the past year or so, I've been pretty much calling myself an actor with the hand movements. You know, that's like a piece of etiquette that's actually required in the industry. You gotta introduce yourself that way, you know. Hi, Liam Dryden, actor. But I haven't really been acting other than having a lead role in a web series that needs funding. And I didn't get that role as a handout or anything. I auditioned for that fair and square, but that was a really long time ago. So while I'm living in a city where most of these things happen, I'd like to try my hand at acting and stuff a little bit more. So luckily a friend of mine who was working at the casting as part of this thing messaged me and was like, hey, we're doing some open auditions for a comedy thing, would you like to come and try it out? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I'll just sort of rock up, take a couple hours out of my day. It won't be a huge waste of time if nothing comes of it. So the difference between this and some other auditions is that this wasn't for a particular role. It was an open audition for a few projects that are in the works, and they were just kind of looking for particular types. The particular casting requirements for this were 18 to 24-year-old males who think they're funny. Not to say that they weren't going to be casting people out with that age group or gender at any particular point, but that's, you know, that's where I fit. That's my box, so that's where I go. So I'm heading down the street towards the auditions. I've got my game face on. I'm feeling pretty good about myself, channeling my spirit animal, wearing some cool clothes, ready to win over some casting directors. And as I get close to the place, I round a corner and I'm suddenly faced with a line of about 400 to 500 other guys that spans about 3 blocks. I tell you now that any sense of specialty or individuality I thought I had before I got to that building was instantly shattered by being faced with my demographic. Nothing makes you feel more generic than being faced with hundreds of yous. Not all of them looked like me, but they were all guys within my age group, all there for the same reason. At this point, I'm like, this is gonna take all day. Do I join the end of the line, or do I just go get lunch and call it a defeat? And then someone in the line made eye contact with me, and I was like, nope, gotta stay, gotta do my duty as a wannabe, gotta pay my dues. And the line took a really long time. I ended up getting friendly with like 4 or 5 guys surrounding me in the line, and because we're all young adult males, that spirit of competition came out. Not competition to see who could get cast, but instead competition to see who could endure the line the longest. So many of us wanted to leave, and we admitted this at the end, that none of us would have stayed in line had we not gotten to talking to other people. It got to the point where the only reason we were still in line is because none of us wanted to be the guy who left. And as we were waiting, there were people who were coming out and sort of talking to the guys in line and telling them what the actual audition entailed. I don't really know the etiquette of talking about auditions that much. I don't really know how much you're supposed to share and not share, but I didn't sign any non-disclosures, so I'm just going to tell you what happened. Basically, it turned out as what they were doing is they were taking people in large groups and then putting them in smaller groups and having those groups do some situational improv comedy. Now, I'm going to admit right now that improv is one of my very weak points. I'll say I'm a fairly outgoing, extroverted person, but I'm not really confrontational when it comes to like comedy, and I'm not particularly great at thinking on the spot and coming up with the words and the formulas and the sentences and the what. And one thing I've often noticed about amateur improv comedy is that it very quickly descends into who can yell their funny words the loudest, because everyone wants to show that they are the quirky funny one of the improv comedy group. This is the point where I'm like, okay, I'm probably just gonna go because I'm not gonna be very good at this anyway, but I'd already been there like 4 hours, so I couldn't be that guy. After hours and hours of waiting, we finally got seen. At this point, I'm really cold. I didn't dress for standing out in the cold for 5 hours. I'm tired, I want food, I'm not particularly ready to turn on the funny. Fortunately, when they put us into our smaller groups, it was me and 2 of the guys I'd spent pretty much the entire day in line with, so we already had kind of a good rapport going. The improv comedy situation that they gave us was that the other 2 guys had to talk me out of following my dream of becoming a crocodile. This is the kind of Monty Python shit that improv comedy very often descends into. So we were one of the last groups that were allowed to go. So I'm watching the other groups go, and they get like 20 to 15 seconds each. So I'm thinking, I'm a man, I want to be a crocodile. How do I go about doing that in the limited amount of time that they're giving me? So when they finally get around to us, what do? I do a quick little bit about how I think my friends should be more supportive, and then I get on the floor, on my belly, bring my hands down here like short legs, and then I make hissing noises. And I actually think that's alligators. I think crocodiles growl. But everyone was laughing, I'm good with that, it was amusing. But apparently that wasn't the kind of funny they were looking for, because they didn't keep me back. They kept back one of the guys in my group to read more lines, which is great for him. But ultimately my day culminated in me waiting in line for 5 hours in the cold to lie on the ground and hiss at casting director. But if nothing, it's a great story, and one of the reasons I want to be an actor is to tell great stories and entertain people, and even if that means that I don't get parts but I tell the stories here, then that works too. If you need a good anthropomorphic crocodile or alligator, I'm your guy, hire me. I asked you guys to tell me in one word, just one, what Doctor Who means to you, and you answered.
Adventure.
Oxygen.
Memory.
Regenerate.
Curiosity.
Brilliance.
Family.
Fantastic.
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 Fantastic.